How's it going? Hope you're having a great day. So, if you've been wanting to start a podcast and you're not quite too sure how to do it, I've got the answer for you because making a podcast is seriously so fun and really, really easy. So, I actually started recording my podcast straight to my iPhone. I got a little cheap mic that you just plug right into the iPhone and recorded notes basically. And that's what I use to edit the podcast, and I actually edit it within Anchor, which if you go to anchor.fm, you can start a free podcast. And I think you have to reach a certain point. I'm not too sure how long, and then you can submit to Apple, Spotify, the major platforms. I'm not too sure the exact rules now since I've been a part of Anchor now for a few years. But it's that simple though to get things started. And you can obviously record and go to YouTube. There's a lot of options once you distribute the thing. But to record, I start off with an iPhone. I think getting away from an iPhone is a nice thing, but if that's what you can start with, do that because that's what I did. I think I ran that way for like 50 episodes on my original podcast. And then I upgraded to the Zoom H2N. And this is an amazing microphone for what it is. I highly recommend getting some type of wind cover type thing so you can help with those plosives like the P's and the S's. It didn't help 100%, but you can definitely tell a difference from not having one on there. And this is amazing too because you set up folders and all that. You can just hit the record button, talk, hit it again to pause. I do how I like to organize mine because I tell stories in my podcast. It's not really a off the cuff continuous podcast. I don't have like a guest on this podcast. So when I'm telling stories, I'm going off an outline, and sometimes I go off the rails with myself and then I go back to the outlines. And so when I do that, I have basically like scenes or clips. So when I stop telling a part of the story, I'll stop recording and I'll go again. And the same thing if I realize I need to re-say something differently, I actually tell myself in the recorder, I make a new clip and I'll say delete previous or I'll say trim previous. So when I have everything out into my editing system, if I tell myself to delete the previous clip, I know just to do it. So I'll go through and take everything out, I'll trim everything, and I'll be ready to edit. So that's how I do things with this. And then from that, I upgraded. I actually don't use this as the microphone. I have an XLR cable, and I use this Rode Pod mic. This is a brand new setup I have going on here. I've seen major podcasters use this thing. It's amazing. Way back in the day, I had a movie podcast and I had a setup very similar to this where I used the Zoom H6 and the Rode Procasters. But since then, there's been new items that actually work perfect for what I'm doing. And this setup is brilliant. This is going to give you professional sound quality. And then if you're wanting to do video, I can show you what I have set up here. So above me, I have a Razer Kiyo, and right here I have a Razer Kiyo. Those are both connected to my MacBook Pro. And so you actually plug in a USB cable to this straight to your computer so you can end up using this Rode mic with these cameras and have like a video, podcast. You can do that. And you can actually do that with the Zoom H2N. And you can actually record directly to the computer with the Zoom H2N as well. It has the same USB hookups as the Zoom H4N. So yeah, those are some of the tools used to make a podcast. Like I say, you can start things very simply, and then if you're loving it or if you're able to, you can just upgrade as you go. And yeah, so that's how I do it. And the funny thing with the Zoom H4 and the other one I showed is actually a little bit more complicated to do the little clips. Like this one is very simplified. The audio is more of it sounds better than just recording to your phone, just obviously straight up. But you can tell a huge like richness and quality once you upgrade to that. But this thing is for ease of use, and you could just throw it in your pocket, do whatever. This is all you need. It's perfect. Like I said, I've used this for hundreds of podcast episodes. But I'm truly grateful to have this professional grade stuff set up now, and it's perfect for when I sit down to my station and my setup. I've always talked about how important it is to have a setup, so I can sit down, record a podcast, sit down and just record my photo book videos where I pick 5 photos from my photo book that I'm looking at, and I'm sure I'll come up with upcoming projects for that station as well. But yeah, that's how you start up a podcast. Just get things recorded, figure out how you're gonna get recorded. Go to anchor.fm, set up a podcast, record. Actually use Final Cut to edit my podcast, which might be silly. I don't know. That's just what I like to use because I use it for video. So I just edit things up and just export the audio, and then I upload that to Anchor. There's other things you can do. If you don't have Final Cut, you can do it in iMovie. You can do it directly in Anchor. So you don't even have to have an application. You can just go to anchor.fm. When you're within your podcast settings, you can just upload your clips and edit your podcast there. Again, I just use Final Cut because I just know exactly how I can do it. And you can do a lot to your audio as well. So if it's a little low, you can do a lot of tweaking. You can edit out certain noises if you need to edit things out, that type of thing. A lot you can do with Final Cut. So yeah, it goes with other editing programs as well, but Final Cut is what I use. But anyways, I wanted to give that little video on how to start a podcast because I truly love doing them, and I think I've mentioned it before within the podcast, but it's like its own type of therapy. It makes me feel good when I'm doing it. Sometimes I'm talking about stories that aren't like feel good stories, but just the production of making a podcast is a fun thing to do. So, anyways, if you want to listen to my podcast, it's Photographiliac, and it's available on Apple, Spotify. There'll be a link below as well, and then I have exclusive episodes at patreon.com/bsmitty. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.